"You're just not as reliable as your sister, honey." "We had to look out for the family legacy," my mother said smoothly, sliding the inheritance deeds across the heavy oak table. My sister, Vanessa, smirked, tightly clutching the paperwork that transferred ownership of a brand new, multi-million-dollar luxury apartment complex entirely to her name. They handed me a single, worn piece of parchment. While Vanessa got the glittering towers and the massive rental income, my parents left me nothing but the literal dirt, the raw land plots beneath the foundations. Vanessa laughed, telling me I could build a sandbox if I felt left out. But my family didn't read the historical zoning laws or the ancient lease agreements attached to that dirt. 5 minutes after Vanessa tried to evict me from the property's management office, my lawyer revealed the truth. She owned the air, but I owned the ground, and I was about to charge her millions in land rent. "Delia, my name is Clara, and at 28 years old, I finally understood that in the eyes of my parents, my only purpose was to serve as a stepping stone for my older sister, Vanessa. The division of our family estate wasn't a sudden surprise. It was the grand finale of a lifelong pattern of blatant favoritism. We sat in the cold, wood-paneled office of our family attorney, the silence broken only by the rhythmic ticking of a grandfather clock. Vanessa sat perfectly straight, a tight, triumphant smile playing on her lips, while my mother and father looked at her with an expression of absolute pride. When the attorney cleared his throat and began reading the final deeds, the true depth of their betrayal was laid bare. To Vanessa, my parents gifted the entire crown jewel of their portfolio, a newly constructed, multi-million-dollar luxury apartment complex sitting in the heart of the city's most affluent district. It was a gold mine designed to generate massive, effortless rental income for the rest of her life. Then, the attorney turned his eyes toward me, sliding a single, faded folder across the desk. And to Clara, my mother announced smoothly, her voice utterly devoid of any real maternal warmth, "We are leaving the underlying land plots. You see, honey, you're just not as reliable as your sister." We had to look out for the true family legacy. Vanessa let out a soft, mocking laugh, leaning over to whisper that I could always build a sandbox if I felt left out. They believed they had successfully left me with nothing but worthless dirt, entirely blind to the explosive legal reality hidden within that soil. Bound to fully understand how deeply this inheritance cut, you have to look back at the past 4 years of my life. When my parents first announced their plans to build the luxury apartment complex, Vanessa completely vanished. She claimed the entire process was far too stressful for her sensitive artistic nature, choosing instead to spend her days traveling across Europe, fully funded by our parents' generous allowances. I, on the other hand, became the unofficial, unpaid project manager for the entire development. I was the one who stood on that muddy construction site at low Ling AM in the freezing rain, arguing with difficult contractors, reviewing complex architectural blueprints, and tracking every single dollar of the budget to ensure the towers actually rose. I poured my entire 20s into that project, sacrifice after sacrifice, truly believing that my hard work would finally earn me my parents' respect and validation. But behind my back, a completely different blueprint was being drawn up. While I was sweating on the construction site, Vanessa and my mother were holding secret meetings with our family estate lawyers. They were quietly and meticulously restructuring the family corporation to ensure that the moment the final brick was laid, I would be legally stripped of any operational authority or financial equity in the building itself. They used my deep technical expertise to build a multi-million-dollar empire, completely intending to hand the keys over to a sister who could even tell you how many floors the building actually had. When I accidentally discovered the finalized estate plan just weeks before the grand opening, my heart shattered into pieces. I realized then that my family didn't see me as a daughter, they saw me as free corporate labor. But instead of throwing a massive tantrum, I quietly took a step back, looked at the unique way the original deeds were recorded, and allowed them to walk directly into a legal trap of their own making. My family fully expected me to break down, cry, or launch a massive legal battle to contest the will, so my absolute calmness during the signing utterly confused them. They mistook my quiet compliance for complete defeat, celebrating their brilliant corporate maneuvering while I quietly walked away with my folder of land deeds. I immediately took those documents straight to a highly specialized property archivist and a veteran real estate attorney who didn't have any ties to my family's regular firm. Together, we spent 3 weeks buried in the city's oldest zoning registries, cross-referencing decades of municipal property codes and original land grants. What we Gorgon uncovered in that hidden history was an absolute masterpiece of administrative oversight. Decades ago, when the original plots were partitioned by my grandfather, the land rights were explicitly separated from any future vertical developments. When my parents rushed to construct the luxury apartment towers, they completely forgot to draft a perpetual structural easement or a unified property title. Because they had split the inheritance so clinically to give Vanessa the physical structures and me the raw land plots, they had inadvertently created the multi-million-dollar building's heavy concrete foundations, its main structural support pillars, its entire underground plumbing system, and its primary electrical grid rested directly on and traveled through my soil. Legally, the buildings didn't have a valid, permanent right to occupy the space beneath them. Vanessa owned the air and the glittering glass walls, but she didn't have a single legal right to the dirt supporting them. Armed with this incredible discovery, I quietly waited for her next inevitable move, knowing that the entire family empire was now resting on a foundation of sand. Banned the moment Vanessa officially took full control of the glittering apartment complex. Her lifestyle skyrocketed into absolute delusion. She immediately began treating the property like her own personal royal court, spending thousands of dollars on custom designer uniforms for the security guards, and forcing the front desk staff to greet her with a ridiculous, formal title. She spent her mornings shopping for sports cars and her afternoons bragging on social media about her incredible status as a self-made real estate mogul. But her absolute favorite pastime was finding petty ways to completely humiliate me. I was still working out of the building's ground floor corporate management office, calmly wrapping up the loose construction contracts I had spent years negotiating. On a crowded Thursday morning, Vanessa deliberately strode into my office, flanked by 2 burly security guards and our grinning mother. She didn't offer a greeting. Instead, she slammed a heavy manila folder directly onto my desk, knocking over my coffee cup. "Your time is officially up, Clara," Vanessa announced, her voice echoing loudly through the glass hallways for all the staff to hear. "I'm restructuring the corporate team, and quite frankly, your boring, working-class attitude just doesn't fit the luxury brand I'm building here. This is your formal 30-day eviction notice from this office. I need you packed up and completely out of my building by 5 o'clock tonight." My mother nodded in absolute agreement, crossing her arms tightly. "Be reasonable, Clara. Vanessa needs this space for her new marketing director. You'll just have to accept that you're a tenant here now, and business is business." Vanessa smirked, leaning down to look me dead in the eye. "You're just a parasite clinging to my success, little sister. Go play in the dirt we left you." I didn't blink, and I didn't reach for my box of packing supplies. Instead, I quietly tapped the screen of my phone, which had been recording on speaker the entire time. 5 minutes later, my real estate attorney, Arthur, walked through the glass doors of the management office, carrying a heavy leather briefcase and 3 copies of a certified municipal legal injunction. "What on earth is this ridiculous theater, Clara?" Vanessa snapped, her smirk finally beginning to slip as Arthur calmly handed a set of documents to her and my mother. "This isn't theater, Vanessa. It's a formal notice of structural trespass and immediate utility revocation," I replied, standing up slowly and smoothing my jacket. "You and our parents were so incredibly eager to steal the physical buildings that you completely forgot to review the original structural deeds. You took the towers, but you left me the ground beneath them. Arthur cleared his throat, his professional voice cutting through the room like a razor. To break this down into simple terms for your legal team, Vanessa, your luxury apartment building does not possess a perpetual easement or a valid ground lease to occupy the soil. The main concrete foundations, the central support pillars, and the primary electrical and water lines are currently violating municipal zoning code by trespassing directly on Clara's exclusive property. Legally, you own the air, but Clara owns the dirt. I leaned forward across the desk, looking at my sister's pale face. And as the sole absolute owner of that dirt, I am officially rejecting your right to occupy my land. If you want your luxury building to stay connected to my soil, my water lines, and my power grids, the ground rent is officially going up. As of 5 minutes ago, your new land lease is exactly $150,000 a month, due on the 1st of every single month. If you refuse to sign, I will have the city code enforcement team formally condemn the towers by Monday morning. The air in the corporate management office became completely suffocating. The triumphant color drained from Vanessa's face, leaving her a sickly, hollow pale as she stared down at the certified municipal injunction in her trembling hands. My mother let out a sharp gasp, her perfectly rehearsed old money composure completely fracturing into absolute panic as she grabbed the documents from her golden child, frantically trying to decimals the complex zoning codes. The two burly security guards Vanessa had brought to humiliate me looked at each other uncomfortably, took a step back, and quietly slipped out of the room, realizing they were standing in the middle of a legal war zone. This is a lie. It's a total setup. Vanessa suddenly shrieked, her voice cracking with absolute desperation as the devastating reality hit her. Without my land lease, her multi-million-dollar inheritance was completely worthless. The banks would immediately default on her construction loans, the city would pull the building's occupancy permits, and her elite tenants would sue her for millions. Her grand empire was structurally dangling in mid-air. Suddenly, the vicious arrogance vanished entirely from my mother's eyes. She dropped her crossed arms and stepped forward, her voice switching from cold corporate rejection to a frantic, pleading maternal whisper. "Clara, please, let's be reasonable," my mother begged, reaching out a hand across the desk. "We are a family, honey. Legacy together. Your sister was just under a lot of stress, and she didn't mean those awful things. We can restructure the deeds. We can give you a massive seat on the board. Just please don't destroy everything we worked for." I watched them both tremble, feeling absolutely no sympathy for the people who had tried to cast me out into the cold just 5 minutes ago. The tower they built on my back was finally crashing down on them. "Umble, there is no family compromise left to make," I said, my voice cutting through their desperate pleas like ice. "You made your choices when you drew up the secret estate plans, and now you have to live with the reality of the ground you stand on." Without another word, I picked up my briefcase and walked out of the building, leaving Vanessa and my mother alone in the ruins of their short-lived empire. Today, I am moving forward as the sole ground landlord of the entire district, collecting my astronomical land rent completely on my own terms. But I'm deeply curious about everyone watching from around the world. What would you have done if your own parents treated you like free labor and left you out of the family legacy?